Hi, welcome back to the NewOrleans.Football show presented by PJ's Coffee. We are in the mobile Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio here somewhere in Mobile, Alabama.
It's the Mobile Ochsner.
Oh, man, that's what we're going with. That's how we're going to hit it. All right, that's how we're hitting it, man. That's it. The Mobile Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio. I'm Nick Underhill. He's Mike Triplett. Brandon Thomas is back there on the ones and twos running the board. Our first topic is presented by Rouse's. Mike McCarthy drops out of the coaching search. What's the latest on the coaching search for the Saints?
Look, I cannot speak for everybody involved for 100% sure, but we try to connect the dots. We talk to a lot of people. This feels a little more like one of those, I dropped out because I was getting the impression I wasn't their top candidate. Now, that could be a direct, we told you, we're not giving you this job so that you dropped out. Or it could be they're sure not treating me like they're taking me seriously. Either way, it's the same end result, which is he was on the back burner. And it always kind of felt weird. Like, yeah, we will arrange this interview with you at some point. We're interested in talking to you. But they had other priorities first. And it's hard to ignore what one of those other priorities was, Kellen Moore, who sure feels like the front runner. And I would almost say Darren Rizzi maybe was even more of a fallback option than Mike McCarthy, but it's hard not to think that all signs are pointing toward Kellen Moore right now.
I'll go ahead and say it even a little bit stronger than that. I mean, I think Mike McCarthy was significantly more interested in the Saints than the Saints were in him. They never made a move to schedule an interview. It was we're going to schedule it. We're going to schedule it, and I think Mike McCarthy really wanted the interview here. I think he was really interested in the job, but I just don't think it was reciprocated for many reasons, and I think their search was just pointing them toward a younger, more up-and-coming type coach, and you swing for the fences and maybe see if you connect on something. Obviously, I don't think the search has gone exactly to script. I mean, a lot of people have dropped out. Joe Brady was a real dropout. Joe Brady was a want to talk to this guy, real candidate. Sorry, I'm not interested. That one hit like that. I think they might have. Early on they put in the slip to talk to Cliff, and then Cliff dropped out, and it doesn't seem like there was ever, hey, come back. Like, I think by that point it was leading more toward Kellen Moore in their search and Joe Brady in their search, and I think that kind of three-piece of young offensive coordinators that kind of fit in the same bucket.
Yeah.
Like, I think they were focused on the other two at that point because Cliff had kind of said thanks but no thanks. So they just moved on. I don't think it was ever circling back to him at that point. But I think he remained, a curiosity. Hey, if all things fail, like maybe we go talk to Cliff again. But it feels like with the way it went, it's just kind of settled on Kellen Moore. Like, I expect him to end up being the coach of the team. I would be kind of surprised if he isn't, just kind of the way this has played out. There's no more interviews scheduled at this point. I think it's going to end up being him.
Yeah, and look, there's going to be a lot of...
And that's a bet. That's not reporting. That's just me betting, right? My thoughts.
There's going to be a lot of revisionist history and eye-rolling if it gets portrayed as, this is the guy we wanted all along.
Well, no.
People are going to say. But I actually think he might have been top two all along. If we're discounting Mike Vrabel, who they're like, sure, well, of course we want to talk to Mike Vrabel. He's a top coaching candidate. That never materialized. But I think they were very interested in Aaron Glenn, wanted to talk to Aaron Glenn, wanted to have a second interview with Aaron Glenn. I don't know if he was definitely their top choice, but I think it's quite possible that Kellen Moore was probably all along maybe the guy who would have won the job among every other candidate, even if they had gotten full first, full second interview, talked to McCarthy, talked to Kingsbury, talked to Brady. It still could have ended up being Kellen Moore over all those guys. We got an impression early on, I know your reporting very early on was this is not going to be a fast search because this committee wanted to wait and talk to these young coordinators who were lasting in the playoffs. At the time, that was Brady and Moore, maybe Brady, Moore, and Kingsbury, but definitely Brady and Moore. And Moore is the guy who is sort of the most polished, most experienced, has been a head coaching candidate the longest, has been prepping to be a head coach for the longest, has been taking jobs around the league with the idea of how can this help me advance my career and be more ready for a head coaching opportunity. So I would think even if this search went perfectly with absolutely no warts whatsoever, I think he could have been right next to Aaron Glenn as the top two candidates.
Could have. The unfortunate thing is that all this stuff played out, and it just makes it look crazy. But you know what? If you get the right guy, it doesn't matter what it looks like right now, and that's how it settles. But kind of given where they're at, the optics couldn't. The optics are. The optics are.
And they
just
did
poor,
get rejected by people. I mean, they, without question, there were other coaches who said, "I don't even want to interview there." There was, or I'm going to take, Vrabel and Ben Johnson. It was like, let's not even bother. We've got other teams that are more attractive than yours. Aaron Glenn was a serious candidate who clearly wanted the Jets more. Joe Brady wanted to stay and be an offensive coordinator and wait for a different cycle more than he wanted to come here. So in no way are we claiming this is a good job. And it might not work out, even if Kellen Moore was the best possible candidate, for all the reasons that some people were showing trepidation for taking this job. It's going to be a really hard job to be successful at. You're either going to have to win with this roster that is full of holes and question marks, or you're going to have to take time for kind of a painfully long rebuilding process. Either way, it's going to be hard for there to be evidence that they got the right guy. This doesn't feel like they're about to draft Jaden Daniels and go to the NFC Championship.
At least you're getting a guy that wants the job. That's a
really
good
point.
He's really in it for the right reasons. Like he wants to rebuild. He likes a difficult thing. Look, I mean, it's entirely possible that he could have ended up being the best one. Like Joe Brady might not have, sat down and had the best pitch. Joe Brady's never, hired someone. He's never installed, there's just a lot of stuff that he's never done in his career. Maybe he's not ready for it. And maybe you sit down and you talk to Kellen and you talk to him and then you pick Kellen. I just wish, in the perfect world, I wish they would have made that decision. Instead of having it being made for him. But I don't disagree. I think when he was on the list, it was like he's an interesting option. Probably didn't stand out the most as everybody's talking about it because you do have a guy that led the best team of all time in college football, and it's kind of they're sitting side by side, and it's like, oh, Joe Brady, like I know Joe Brady. It's like being in Atlanta, like no one's picking up a can of Pepsi, but for Pepsi won the blind taste test, so it's just kind of the way it goes sometimes. You just go with the thing we'll see. I mean, I think we both feel like he's going to end up being the next head coach of the Saints. Just got to wait until the Super Bowl's over. But there's still, even if he were the pick, there's a lot to overcome. You got to have contract negotiations, all that stuff. We'll see how it plays out. But I think right now, that's kind of how it looks like it's trending. Moving on to the next one, presented by Aaron Rose. I mean, we kind of hit on this already. Why do we think Mike McCarthy took his name out of the coaching poll? I think it's what you said. I think that he just kind of. I think he kind of got the feeling that somebody else was being selected, and people make moves to do what they got to do to kind of handle a situation. And I think he pulled himself out because he knew it was probably going a different direction.
Yeah, and look, I think if we're reporting this strictly from a Mike McCarthy sort of thing, I mean, he probably feels like he was wronged or they didn't handle this search that well. Like, he deserves probably a certain level of respect as a Super Bowl winning coach, and he was being treated as a back burner. Like, maybe if these other candidates don't work out for you, we'll definitely arrange this one. No, we promise we will. Never did. I could see him feeling slighted. I mean, the reports started to come out that he was getting disenchanted. I think if you're being treated like you're not a top candidate and you're not a serious candidate, you're going to feel very disenchanted. So no matter which perspective you're coming from it's the same end result. The Saints were more serious about other candidates than him, and he eventually withdrew with that being pretty obvious.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that, and then it's just a matter of which side you're looking at it from. I think that the end result stems from the Saints weren't as interested in him as he was in them, and then he's, like you said, I think he's probably upset about it, and I think the Saints are probably like, we feel good about the direction we're going, and we don't want to waste Mike's time unless he is actually the guy. I think that's probably how they felt about it in the way you said. And look, in the end, you probably feel a little bit chapped that they didn't even talk to you when you wanted this job. You wanted to talk to them, and they kind of went with somebody else. And then it probably stings twice as much if that somebody is somebody you fired from your Dallas staff and he ends up getting the job. That's probably a little bit of a hit too. Like, you're going with this guy? Like, really? That's probably how he feels about it. And then the Saints probably just, look, they wanted the young guy. I think the young guy or Rizzi. I think if you're going that plane, it's either get the home run swing and see if you connect, or, go to Rizzi. I think those are their options right now, and we'll see how it settles. But, I think that's absolutely a fair portrayal of it. The Saints weren't as interested in Mike McCarthy as Mike McCarthy was in them. And, Mike probably feels a certain type of way about it.
So let's rank the people that withdrew from the Saints job. When people are going to write the history of this, especially if this job turns out bad, they're going to be like, oh, their last coaching search was a disaster. 4 people dropped out on them. How many people really dropped out on the Saints? 2?
All right. Well, first thing first, this part of it, like when people write the history of the search, nobody remembers any of this if they got it right.
If they get it right.
Yeah. Nobody remembers the circus that the Denver coaching search was a few years ago. Nobody remembers it. Nobody remembers all the people that dropped out, all the people they almost hired. Oh, damn, I guess they have to trade for Sean Payton now. And, man, that was dumb. Who trades for a coach? And then now no one remembers the draft compensation, all the maybes, all the ifs, all the visits. All they know is that there's Sean Payton and there's Bo Nix.
They're not constantly talking about Brian Brzee. I can't believe we gave up Brian Brzee for this coach.
Yes, they aren't doing that. They aren't doing that. So first thing first, all this is forgot. You nail it. It's perfect.
Yep.
And, it goes on. The real dropouts, I mean, the only one that like really, really dropped out is Joe Brady to me. Obviously, Aaron Glenn, you put him in that same bucket. He didn't want to come down here for the second interview. So 2. Mike Vrabel took a better job. I guess it depends on how you want to look at it.
Other coaches took better jobs. I think Aaron Glenn would have taken a second interview if he didn't get the Jets job.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and Vrabel, if 3 other teams didn't want to hire him, maybe he then would have been like, hey, guys, you're my 4th choice. Still want to talk to me. But, yeah, Brady was a definite. I'm staying as the Bills' offensive coordinator, and I've already done an interview with you guys.
Yeah, I think if you're being fair and you're just being fair, no biases either way, you don't want to make it sound like the worst thing in the world. You don't want to make it sound like a cleanup job. It's 2. I think there's 2 hits here. The 2 real actual hits, Joe Brady and Aaron Glenn. I think those are the 2 hits that you say, like, all right, like they couldn't get what they wanted in these 2 situations that were actually feasible and attainable. Like Mike Vrabel was never attainable for them, and Ben Johnson was never actually attainable for them. So I'm not saying 4. I never really took Cliff as like a serious candidate. That might be a blind spot on my part. Like it might be a complete blind spot on my part, but I don't think he was a serious candidate for them.
I think he might have been if he would have done the first interview at the time first interviews were being done and the second interview at the same. I don't think they were going to wait 2 more weeks.
He dropped out. He dropped out on the league. Yeah,
he dropped out on the league.
Yeah, which is reflective on some sense to where you're at. Like if it's an amazing job and you have a chance for it, you probably do find time for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So look, that reflective is.
We'll say 2 hits in a jab.
2 hits and 3 jabs. I mean, you wanted to be one of the teams that Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel wanted on your list, and you definitely were not. So I was going to use 2 of your terms.
Brady was a haymaker, though.
Being reflective and being fair. If in any way we sound like we're being nice to the Saints have a lousy job, and the league showed us that. There was a level of candidate who didn't even bother coming here. There was a level of candidate who could have had this job and didn't want it. There was a level of candidate who didn't even want to interview for it because they were like, I'm going to wait for better jobs that come open next cycle. 100% this coaching cycle showed us that the Saints have a less than desirable head coaching job. So their candidates were whittled down to the people who were interested in taking it. That doesn't mean they botched it. It just means this wasn't a great job to start with, and that limits your pool of candidates.
And
no doubt about it.
They still got to land the plane here. Like there is still a very, there's a possibility they don't land the plane here, and if they do not land this plane, like that is just full on, just panic, mayhem, burn it down, all that. Like at that point, if this is your choice, if Kellen Moore is the choice, and they cannot land this plane, like that is a disgusting situation. But look, no, this has not been a good process. And yeah, I mean, it just hasn't been a good process. Like we already wrote the scathing piece and all that stuff. Like Joe Brady was a haymaker. I feel like Aaron Glenn was a hit in the eye, and then everything else was just kind of, body shots. But it is what it is. If you get it right, you found a way to win the fight, you win the fight. And if you didn't and you get knocked out, you got knocked out. And then the process is terrible and it is ugly. And everything that went wrong was, indicative of future mayhem and future incompetence and all that stuff. And let's just see if they get it right. I mean, that's really just where it's at this point. But yeah, I think 2 real misses and then, a couple other things that kind of happen. But when you win 5 games and people are dropping out and you aren't getting your candidates and people are pissed about everything is bad. So I get it, and we'll just see if they got it right. I mean, that's really where it's at this point. I'm not trying to just continue to bathe in the same narrative. Like, let's see if they hire this guy and see if it works. But yeah, we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be back with more show after that. Ochsner Hospital for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine on Clearview Parkway is celebrating 5 years of exceptional achievements. The hospital's integrated team has successfully performed over 20,000 surgeries using the latest in cutting-edge technology. With nationally recognized services and impactful partnerships, they continue to lead the advancement of orthopedic and sports medicine care in our region.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number 1 grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. NewOrleans.Football is proudly sponsored by Urban South Brewery, the makers of Paradise Park Lager. I love supporting local breweries, and when looking for a refreshing, easy drinking beer, I always recommend Paradise Park. In fact, I think it might be the best game day beer out there. If you want something a little lighter, try Paradise Light. It's everything I love about Paradise Park with just 96 calories and 2.6 carbs. And if you're looking for a family-friendly place to watch the game, I'd recommend Urban South's Tap Room in the Lower Garden District. They've got 15 TVs, 30 unique beers on tap, and mouth-watering urban smash burgers. The whole family will want to make Urban South their new living room because at Urban South, they take laid back seriously. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com. Welcome back to the NewOrleans.Football show. Our next topic is presented by Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. The Saints, obviously, the coaching search is winding down one way or the other. We kind of think it's either going to be Kellen Moore and most likely Kellen Moore, if not Darren Rizzi. But the fact of the matter is this thing is going on, and we are damn near in February now. They haven't hired a head coach, which means they haven't hired any staff. So that whole process has to start. Every day you're seeing people hook on with other staffs. People are filling those things out. Everybody that has an opening is starting to fill those openings. If the Saints do hire Kellen Moore, they can't do so until February 10th. Jeez. If they hire
Is that true?
Yes, the
February
day after the
10th?
Super Bowl. It would be the day
I
after
knew it was the day after Super Bowl, but I didn't know that was February 10th.
Yeah, and Rizzi obviously is on hold until
February 10th.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
I think if they weren't getting more, they would know it before then, and they would go the other direction.
Yeah.
But is it a concern?
Yeah, it's definitely a concern. I mean, there's no question about it because hopefully he's got coordinators in mind that are coming no matter what. We speculated that one of them is his offensive coordinator, who I'm drawing a complete blank right now, the former LSU quarterback Nussmeier, whose son is the current LSU quarterback. So maybe he comes with him no matter what in some staff capacity. You know, you can connect the dots to Brandon Staley, who hired him as a coordinator. Maybe you can hire him as a coordinator. Maybe those would have been his top choices all along. Maybe they're both still available. But you know, I had heard one person speculate Matt Eberflus might go with Kellen Moore. He's already taken a job. We've seen a lot of people take a lot of jobs, and that's just coordinators. Then there is your quarterback's coach and your offensive line coach and everybody you want to build a staff with. Can they all be on hold? Did some of them have to take some jobs already because of the unknown? That is the danger of waiting this long, and that is definitely a hurdle they're going to have to overcome. So hopefully it's pretty smooth. Hopefully somebody like Kellen Moore, who is now on like year 3 of being a top coaching candidate, already has a vision for like 10 of those spots. The Saints did not hire Clint Kubiak until after the Super Bowl last year, and he had his whole staff pretty much picked out. He had his quarterback's coach, he had his offensive line coach, he had his senior coordinator, and they were all ready to go with him. So hopefully it's a similar case with someone like Kellen Moore. We know that was a big part of Darren Rizzi's pitch. If he's the coach, he's got some guys in mind. So hopefully it's still possible, but that is a danger in waiting. I mean, it's why the Final Four of the NFL is going on with seemingly the 4 best teams in the league all still out there playing, and no one else in the league waited for them. They all wanted to get the ball rolling.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's logical to think that you'd lose out on a couple people that you would want for your staff. I think your pillars are probably your pillars. Like Brandon Staley isn't going anywhere if that's his DC. That, you know, I don't think he's going to get scooped up anywhere. I think he'd probably get a lot of the people that he's envisioning for his staff, whoever he thinks is going to be his quarterback's coach. And, you know, I think a lot of those positions, but there are other guys that you're going to lose and people aren't going to want to wait for it. It's just kind of is the way it is. I think, you know, some of the people that I think would be connected to Rizzi, I don't think they're going anywhere, the big guys. But, yeah, I think further down your staff, like there's just people that you're probably going to lose because they're going to say, hey, look, I'm getting offered this now, and I don't know if you have this job, and I'm going to take it. So I'm sure there's a couple people that have already evaporated. I heard that was some of the concern with McCarthy, is that there was people he wanted on his staff, and he was worried that, like, not going to be able to. So, I mean, I think that's a real thing. People are getting scooped up. People are taking jobs. There's movements around the league, and it's a concern, but I don't think it's a huge concern. I don't think that you're not getting most of your staff, but there's probably a couple little pieces that do get slipped away if you are waiting. It's just reasonable. Hey, look, I got a good opportunity, I got to take it.
I also think, look, our sourcing, the reporting we're trying to do, one thing that is very clear when it comes to a candidate like Kellen Moore is everyone is extremely careful. Like, there are league rules about working out an arrangement with a coach. So it's almost like it's just like it becomes Stonewall. Like, there is no way anyone is ever going to connect the dots that we said this is a done deal, to the point where it's probably not a done deal because no one can say it's a done deal. But I would hope that
it's definitely not a done deal. Yeah.
But I would hope in a situation like this that if Kellen Moore knows someone that he wants to be his offensive or defensive coordinator, he can at least convey to them, I feel really good about this situation. Everything seems like it's coming together. If you can hold on 2 more weeks for me, I think this is going to happen. Hopefully those kind of conversations can be happening right now, even though there is nothing official.
Yeah, I don't even think it's like a zeroing in type situation.
Yeah.
I mean, like I couldn't say that. Like, all I could say is I'm betting, like, my personal belief is that I think it's Kellen Moore. Like, just following the chain of events, I believe that if I, just watching the patterns of things unfold in the NFL over the years, like, it feels like the pattern is unfolding in a manner in which it's going to end with Kellen Moore in that seat. Is the best way I can put it. All right, moving on to our next topic presented by Urban South. Who are your Senior Bowl standouts?
Kellen Moore. Look, we've obviously been spending most of our time here covering the Saints. I've talked to people while we're in the stands here, while after practices. I've read up on what people are writing and things like that, and I've probably watched, 45 minutes of practices where I'm trying to look at some of the guys that people have told me. One guy I'm already kind of sold on is the North Dakota State offensive lineman, Gray Zabel. He got a ton of buzz yesterday, so I watched him today. Like, seems like he's dominating his one-on-ones, and he's playing tackle, guard, and center. I think a lot of people think he might move inside. Probably a second-round prospect. Beautiful. Add to the offensive line in the second round. You can already pencil him into my draft class for me. And then, obviously, the quarterbacks are the guys you can't help but pay attention to. Jackson Dart, I don't think has moved up into the top 10 of the draft because of what he's doing on the field here, but it's just a name I keep hearing, like, everybody, like, this is just you talk about a natural pattern and chain of events that you follow. He's already getting first-round buzz heading into the Senior Bowl. He'll probably be getting top 10 buzz by the time things are over. I don't think Jalen Milroe has really impressed in his first 2 days here as far as overcoming what people are concerned about with him, but his talent alone is going to get him drafted somewhere.
I'm going to be kind of a simp and point at people that are playing in space because they stand out so easily. Beck has looked really, really good. A handful of plays. Me and Brennan watched him kind of smoke some people in one-on-ones today. The Miami tight end has looked good. Arroyo, he's made a lot of athletic plays.
It's a good tight end group.
Yeah,
on the field here in general, I think.
The other Royals, I think is his name. Like, he's looked pretty good out here so far. He's somebody I've liked a little bit. Mike Green from Marshall, the edge, like, he was kind of killing people. And look, small school edges, like, I get it, but like he was
cross him off your list, Nick.
Killing people
cross him off
in
your
the
list.
One-on-ones today. Looked really good there. So those are kind of a few of them. Nolan, the defensive tackle from Ole Miss, has had a good week. So those are kind of the guys that have popped out to me. But like Mike said, like we've spent a lot of time like running around trying to talk to people. So it isn't, I have like a little bit of an incomplete on any of these takes. But those are the guys that I definitely feel like have popped, and it was like they forced me to take notice of them.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that I'm willing to kind of put my
I felt
name
that
on.
way about the Texas A&M edge too, because he just looked. He was one of those. There's always maybe every 2 or 3 Senior Bowls where there's one guy who just looks bigger than everybody else out there, and then plays like he's bigger than everybody else out there. He won every rep that I watched of him too, and obviously fits that. Hey, there's a giant defensive end out there who moves fast. You always put that on a Saints board.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna take a quick break and be back with the Martin's question of the day. Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martin's is your go-to destination for everything merry and bright this holiday season. From an unmatched selection of bourbon, whiskeys, and wines to gourmet food, gift baskets, and catering, Martin's has all your holiday needs covered. Family owned and operated since 1946, Martin's knows the perfect ways to celebrate this season with loved ones. Visit them in Metairie, New Orleans, or Baton Rouge, or shop online for the ultimate convenience. Whether you're raising a glass or looking for the perfect holiday gift, make it an easy and cheerful holiday with Martin's.
Score big with Saints Score. Win up to $100,000. Enter the second chance drawings for cool Saints prize packages. Play Saints Score scratch-offs from the lottery.
Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, the crown jewel of entertainment destinations. From the thrill of gaming, where every spin and deal brings you closer to fortune, to the excitement of sports betting, where you can feel the rush of victory. Our spaces and catering menu are perfect for any event. From business meetings to grand celebrations, immerse yourself in our vibrant atmosphere with live music that keeps the party going all night long. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
Welcome back to the NewOrleans.Football show. It's time for the Martin's question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. All right, it is time for this question, and the question is, why are the head coach interviews so long, 7 to 8 hours? What's the process for the first, and if there's a second one?
All right, so first round is usually virtual with everyone. Like in the case of Darren Rizzi, he just did his 7 to 8 hour one. That's the only one he did. He was already living here. They already knew him. I think that happened with things like when the Patriots brought in their guys that were out of the league, like Pep Hamilton and Byron Leftwich. They just did it first. But if you're following the protocol with guys who are employed by teams, even Anthony Weaver, who wasn't in the playoffs, you do virtual first, usually about 2 hours, maybe 2 to 3 hours. Over a Zoom call. That's what you're required to do. You can do your in-person later, and that's more of a 7 hour. The 2-3 hour Zoom is obviously getting to know you, getting to a feel for each other. The 7 to 8 hour is a lot more nitty-gritty. I think you have some information on the kind of things. But even we were just talking to Mike Kafka yesterday. He's now done 8 of these in the last 3 years. He had 4 2 years ago, 2 last year, 2 this year. I believe he got to the second interview stage with every one of them, and he said all of them are different. The things asked, it's kind of like the combine interviews. The things that they ask you are a little different. The situations, sometimes you're on the board, sometimes you're going over their entire roster or whatever. But that's when you get thorough.
And I believe the virtual has a limit of 3 hours, and then the in-person has a limit of 8. So that's about as long as you can go. And the virtual ones are definitely shorter. And it's like you said, I think it's just kind of general philosophy, general overview, general how do you handle things, how do you do things, why do you want to be a coach, like any type of first interview. And then as you get deeper into it, the second one is more like, what are your thoughts on our players? What would you want to do to develop this guy? How would you want to build the roster? What do you need to have, success? How would you marry what you need with what you on the field with the scouting, and how would that process marry? And, I think it's kind of into that. What's your vision for the organization from top to bottom? Okay, now let's break that down layer by layer by layer by layer. And, I think it's a very extensive thing. Like you hear about binders and stuff like that all the time. Oh, he's been preparing a binder for 7 years. Like, but that is it. Like, and sometimes it gets so detailed as to like, these are the signs that I would hang in the locker room, and this is what they would say, and this is why I will put them up, and that's how it would build into the culture, and these would be the pillars of our culture, and go out from there. Like that's how detailed they get, and that's why they take that long. And it's the ultimate sales pitch, really, kind of trying to sell people on your vision of this is how I would run your team, this is why I would succeed, and this is why I should be the candidate, and here's every single step along the way.
And obviously the Saints had that contingent that was pretty wide-ranging in their front office, even including Jeff Ireland, who, goes to the interview with Kellen Moore on the first night of the Senior Bowl, delaying his start here or whatever. But, I mean, that's the thorough panel that's there for every single one. I mean, that's the take it seriously interview. It obviously very much is. And as it should be for a hire like this.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Keep it locked to NewOrleans.Football for all of your Saints needs.